Hi, I'm Jen from the Conant Branch Adult Day program, and today I'm going to make Buttertarts, a Canadian favorite. I didn't realize that the United States didn't have Buttertarts until my sister-in-law told me that she had never had a Buttertart before. So we're making Buttertarts today. They're my mom's favorite, and today is her special day. So I'm making them for her, and I'm using my great-grandmother's recipe, my great-grandma Birdie. And this is a recipe that has gone through our family, but it's really not that uncommon. I'm betting that a lot of people out there have used this recipe for butter tarts. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make the pastry for the butter tarts. And the recipe I have for the pastry is called No Fail Pie Crust. And you can use it for anything, meat pie, berry pies, apple pies, butter tarts, whatever. But I liked the word no fail because that means I should not fail. So hopefully we'll do that. So let me just show you some of the ingredients that we have, okay? We have, firstly, 5 cups of flour. In here, we have a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of packed brown sugar. And in here, get a liquid cup measuring cup because you're going to have to do this. So I have an egg that's been beaten, and in there I have a tablespoon of white vinegar. Yes, I know it sounds funny. And we're going to pour enough cold water in here. This is why it has to be in a cup. Here's my cold water. Always measure liquids with it on the ground. We're going to pour enough cold water into the egg and the vinegar. Oh, and the vanilla. Sorry. Vanilla too. How much vanilla? No vanilla. That's for the butter tarts. This is my pie crust. Disregard. An egg, white vinegar, and enough cold water to bring it up to 1 cup of liquid. So there we go. And we also have a pound of lard. And what good recipe doesn't start with lard? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lard in the bowl. And if you'll notice behind me, these old Tupperware, my old Tupperware flour container was my great-grandma's. Okay. So I'm going to put the lard in here. I'm just going to use a knife and kind of cut it up here. Just a bit smaller hunks. Okay. And then I'm going to put in 5 cups of the sifted flour. So I've already sifted this. It's gone through my sifter and it's all good. So we're going to put it in, and I'm going to put it all in at once actually. And I have this. I don't know if you have this. This is a pastry cutter, and it's meant to cut the butter or lard or whatever in with the flour. But if you don't have one of these, you can use 2 knives to kind of cut it in, or 2 forks or something like that. What you don't really want to do is use your hands at this point because your hands are hot and you'll melt the lard. And we don't want melted lard. We want crumbly bits. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this, and then I will show you what it looks like right after. Okay, so I've used my pastry cutter. I did put in the baking powder, salt, and brown sugar in with the flour, and I've cut it up with my pastry cutter. And what you want to look for, it's not going to be fully mixed. It's going to be crumbly, like big, like some little pebbles. I don't know if you can see that. So it's not going to be mixed like you would think a cake or something would be mixed. So now I'm going to pour in the egg, the vinegar, and the water. Just pour it right in. And I'm just going to mix that through a little bit. And as you can see, it's just getting a little bit more wet. Don't excuse my mess. I am not a clean baker. Okay, I'm gonna scoop that. Now, the best tool to have in the kitchen are these. So we are going to dump it out. And I know that we've washed our hands excessively during COVID, and baking is, you know, same thing. Okay. Put that to the side. And now we're just going to kind of bring it together. And this is where the heat of our hands will slightly melt the pie dough. We're gonna just blend it together. Kind of like you were kneading bread. I've never made bread, but I watch the Food Network and I see this is how they do it. Picking up your... Now the key here is to not mix it too much, because we're going to be playing with it and handling it when we cut out our tart shells. So you want to kind of mix it just until it's formed and put together in a ball. So that's something, see, it's being held together. So we're going to put this in the fridge and refrigerate. You can refrigerate really as long as you want, but I'm gonna put it in for at least an hour, but I have a trick. I've always seen people, they kind of put their saran wrap around a ball. I like to flatten it out so it cools down, it chills, and that's the way we're gonna roll it out anyway. When it comes time, we're gonna roll it so it's like this. So we're gonna put it in like that, and if you come up here close and look, you will see little chunks of the lard in there, and that is good because that does a little thing and it makes for flaky pastry. So we're gonna put this in some saran wrap, and I'm gonna put it in the fridge, tidy up, and we're gonna make the insides of our butter tart. Okay, so now we're going to make the yummy part of the butter tart, which is the filling. We're going to take 1 cup of brown sugar, packed brown sugar. Nope. In here, I have a tablespoon of butter that's been melted, and just be careful with whatever recipe you use, because there's a difference between 2 tablespoons of melted butter and 2 tablespoons of butter melted. So if it's asking you for 2 tablespoons of melted butter, measure the tablespoons after you've melted the butter. If it's asking you for 2 tablespoons of butter, melted, then you want to measure your butter, which is what I did, cold, put it in a container and melt it, because there will be fewer than 2 tablespoons when you're done. Melted butter, 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. This is not diabetic friendly. A pinch of salt, a half a teaspoon of vanilla. So that goes in there. The corn syrup kind of stuck to the bottom. And 2 eggs that I've beaten lightly. So we're gonna mix this together. And it's going to become runny and ooey and whatnot. So we're going to mix it till it's pretty much all the sugar has been mixed in. We're not quite done with adding things to this, but what we're going to do, get out the lumps of any brown sugar lumps that you have. Some might be air bubbles. And we're going to take this mixture and we're going to put it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. Then we'll come back and I will show you what we'll do after that. Okay, so I've taken the dough out of the fridge. I've cut it in half here, and I've put some flour over my counter and kind of flipped it around. You want to be careful you're not putting too much flour in. I just kind of give a little light flour of my rolling pin. And we're just going to roll this out. I'm not the neatest roller. I never said I'm a, professional baker. Betty Crocker, I am not. When it sticks like that, you just want a little bit more. Put a little bit of flour on there. And we're gonna roll this out to be about 1/8 of an inch. Going from all sides. There, it's sticking again. Giving a little pressure. The good thing about this is it's no-fail pie crust. So you can't do too much damage to it. Okay, so we're almost there. You don't want it too thick. So about 1/8 of an inch. There, that's looking pretty good there. Some people are very good at this. I'm not, but I get the job done. Okay. So what you're gonna do is we're gonna put them in our lightly sprayed muffin cups, doodads here. So these are new pans for me, so I'm not really sure what size. Just grab something round from your house. This is a tea biscuit cutter that I have, but I also have the container that it sits in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut both. I like this one just because it has the scalloped edges, but I have a feeling it's not going to be big enough, and it's not. So I will use this bigger one. And I will, if you don't think it's quite thin enough, you can always pat it and put your doodad around it. So I am going to tuck it down into my pan. They will expand a bit, so if it goes a little bit low, that's okay. And you're gonna take a fork and just put a couple little holes in the bottom. So we're gonna continue to do that until we filled up both of our pans, and we're going to put them back in the fridge until we just finalize our inner goo, and I'll get back to you then. So the last part of our butter tart filling is it's chilled for 30 minutes in the fridge. I've boiled the kettle, so you're going to take 2 tablespoons of boiling water, and you're going to add it in to your mixture and mix it in really well. And then what I do is I take one of my other favorite tools. I have a small ice cream scoop that I use for baking and muffins and stuff, and I'm going to put it in the shells. But a great source of debate in our house, and maybe yours, is raisins or no raisins in the butter tarts. My husband is saying no raisins. He doesn't like them. It's also a debate whether when I make rice pudding, raisins or no raisins. You can put pecans in here, raisins or whatnot. I personally like raisins, but these butter tarts today are for my mom, and she likes raisins, so mom gets raisins. What I don't do is put the raisins in the mixture and try to scoop it into the shells. I think a little bit of my OCD comes out, and I like all the butter tarts to have the same amount of raisins. So what I do is I put raisins in, and I kind of just eye it of how many there are, so they all get around the same amount. I fill them all. Then I take my little scoop and I pour it over the raisins. I will fill them all. They will go into a 400-degree preheated oven for 15 to 20 minutes. But what I would like you to do is about the 12-minute mark, start to look at them and just make sure that they're okay in there. And pull them out. They'll be golden brown. They'll be ooey gooey, and we'll show you that in a sec. Okay, they're out of the oven. Here they are. There they are. Grandma Birdie's butter tarts. So thanks for watching with me.